Okay, reading from the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta Madhya-lila, chapter 8, text 245. Is the light on there? But it won't. Well, it's okay. I have to just 1 second. Okay, I'm kind of set up now. Okay, reading from the Madhya-lila, chapter 8, text 245. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And shut the door. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Prabhu kahe vidyā-madhye sāra. Kahe kṛṣṇa-bhakti vinā vidyā-nāhi. On one occasion, the Lord inquired, of all types of education, which is the most important? Rāmānanda Rāya replied, no education is important other than transcendental devotional service of Krishna. I'll read Prabhupada's purport. Purport, text 245 to 257 are all questions and answers between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rāmānanda Rāya. In these exchanges, there is an attempt to show the difference between material and spiritual existence. Education in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental, and it is the best of all forms of education. Material education aims at increasing the activities of material sense gratification. Beyond material sense gratification is another negative form of knowledge called Brahma Vidya, or impersonal transcendental knowledge. But beyond that Brahma Vidya, or knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, is knowledge of devotional service to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This knowledge is higher, and higher still is devotional service to Lord Krishna, which is the topmost form of education. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 2, 4, 29, 49, Tat karma haritosham yatsa vidya tan materyaya. Work meant for pleasing the Supreme Lord is best, and education that enhances one's Krishna consciousness is the best. Also, according to Srimad Bhagavatam 7, 5, 23, 24, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanavedanam Iti Pumsar Pita Vishnu Bhaktis Chen Navalakshana Create the Bhagavat Yadha Tanmay Ditam Uttamam. There is a statement given by Prahlad Maharaj in answer to a question raised by his father, Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj said to hear a chant about Lord Vishnu, to remember him, to serve his lotus feet, to worship him, to offer prayers to him, to become his servant and his friend, to sacrifice everything for his service. All these are activities of devotional service. One who's engaged in such activities is understood to be educated to the topmost perfection. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanshakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So greetings from Govardhan. I'm so happy to be back. I was just in Vrindavan for a few days, and I was continuing this Rāmānanda Samvad, this discussion with a few people and getting a few things that I needed to do done there. Including getting removed from my ear part of my hearing aid, the rubber part, which got stuck in my ear. But yeah, so let me put this in context because I've been going over it for a few days. First, you know, this story begins with this beautiful analogy, which is the context to understand this. And the analogy, explained this before, is the relationship between the rain clouds and the ocean. Overtly, it appears that the rain clouds are filling the ocean, but the rain clouds are getting its water from the evaporation of the ocean. So in the analogy, Rāmānanda Rāya, who's answering the questions, and Lord Chaitanya, who's asking the questions, Rāmānanda Rāya is compared to the rain cloud and Lord Chaitanya to the ocean, because Lord Chaitanya is asking questions and he appears to be being educated by Rāmānanda Rāya. But because the question is, give me a recite a verse of the essence of the ultimate goal of life. So the ultimate goal of life. So it gets very high and very esoteric. And Lord Chaitanya, because he asked that question, he keeps on pushing Rāmānanda Rāya, I want something more. Even, and Rāmānanda Rāya, you know, he knows so much, but he has this realization. Sarvasya chaham hidi sani vishno matasmatir gyanam aponam cha, which is our realization. And our realization is what we're saying when we speak Krishna consciousness. The content and the inspiration, it's coming from God. And therefore, one who's a true devotee, even in great accomplishment, never falls under the sway of false ego that I'm the ultimate doer. He clearly sees that he's an instrument for Krishna, which doesn't minimize his capabilities and abilities. Because an instrument can be very beautiful. An instrument can help you do a wonderful task. But ultimately, it's an instrument to be used by something that has more power than it, which actually directs it. So that's how he feels. And Rāmānanda Rāya, and he just gave this analogy that, you know, my tongue is like a string and you're just playing it. So it's going higher and higher, the subject matter. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where we left off. And yeah, and then when it begins to discuss these subjects, where even Prabhupada in the purport says that, you know, this is for liberated souls. And I'm very careful how I discuss it. I don't really get into a detailed analysis of some of these verses, but just put it in the context. And even Krishnadas Kaviraj, who's explaining these verses about the union of Radha and Krishna, even he, when he's explaining him, says, this appears to be like material lust, but it's only called that because there's some similarity, but it has nothing to do with it. It's actually what's the form of intense selfishness in this world, which is sex life just for material enjoyment without any sense of responsibility. That form of romance and passion, the intensity of that is just a reflection of the spiritual world between Radha and Krishna, where the intensity is the satisfaction and pleasure of the other, to the extent that those in that relationship get more, because it's all about love, they get more pleasure seeing someone else satisfy Krishna, because it's not about them. Radharani is competitive with her chief rival, Chandravali, only because she has the full capacity to please Krishna. She'll fight to please Krishna only because she knows she can please him the most. You know, and really, if we look at what character means and what development means, it means coming to the consciousness that life is not just about me. I remember one brahmachari, dynamic brahmachari, you know, and then he got married. He couldn't believe it. And he was a very dynamic person. And then he described, which really, what is the spiritual aspect of family life? The spiritual aspect is people realize life is not just about me. That's what love is called. That's what our soul is. And we're upset about it because we want existence to be just about us. But that's love. And that's what a person of character, that's what a person of love, the desire to please, the desire to serve. I read this one book on japa, and one of the principles is to think of others before yourself. So that's really the consciousness there, and it's ontological because there is a God, we're part of God, and serving the center is harmonious. And Prabhupada gave the simple example of throwing rocks in a pond. If there are different centers, then the waves clash. Or watering the root, all the leaves and branches are replenished. So even Krishnadas Kaviraj is explaining this is if you misidentify the form of Radha and Krishna with mundane emotions, they'll only inspire mundane emotions. But if you have some taste for devotion and some experience in devotion and some maturity of emotion, then seeing those forms will not only be the topmost love, but it'll cure you from selfishness and lust. The meditation on these pastimes will purify you from that. Vishya vini vartante niraharasya dhyana raso rajam raso pyasya, because there'll be a higher taste. That's why we are in Krishna consciousness. I say, why am I here in Vrindavan and Govardhan? Although for the next 3 weeks, Seva Priya is coming, I'll go into Vrindavan. Her and her son will be there for a few days. But generally, why am I here? Because I understood many, many years ago, and it became my service. I'm here for service. I'm only here for service. And if service was someplace else, I'd be there someplace else. There was a great saint here. He was giving lectures in Vrindavan near the temple on Vrindavan Mahimamrita, the glories of Vrindavan, which is a radical, glorification of Vrindavan, where there are verses that I'd rather hear the Pijalpa, the idle talk of the Brijbasis, and attain love of Godhead any place else, and cursing people if they leave Vrindavan. It's like the heaviest book about Vrindavan. But the saint, when he was lecturing it, he said, but if someone leaves Vrindavan, to give Vrindavan, it's as good as Vrindavan. So what's the seva? The seva is, and I described faith, I got this definition from a famous Christian apologist, trust by experience. Trust in what? Trust in our goal by some preliminary experience of that goal, which is the sublimity of bhakti, and gives you an idea that there's a pleasure in selflessness and love that far exceeds the egotistical and self-centered sensuous pleasure, which becomes our goal in this world by our experience. But it's really fleeting, because material pleasure is really, the expectation of it is always exceeds the experience of it. And that's the way the world works. Things are never as good as they are, or as bad, generally. We worry, but so, yeah, it's that trust by experience. And what is the experience here? It's the experience of the soul, which reaches its fruition in service and love, that experience of the soul. And it's so powerful here that it convinces people, I've seen it, it convinces people that this is my goal. And because the goal is so lofty, because it's God, and it's the transcendental pleasure in relationship with God, then no price is too much to pay for it. And that's why one of the favorable aspects of bhakti mentioned in the Upadeshamrita is utsahan, nishtaya, dharya, enthusiasm, patience, and confidence. And what's this patience and confidence? That what I am seeking is worth so much that whatever I have to pay for in this life to get it is worth it, which includes all the trials and tribulations that we're facing by the mercy of God to detach us from this world. It's worth it. And that, why am I here? This is actually, no, I already celebrated my 40th year as sannyas. 40 years in 3 days before last Gaur Purnima. And practically 52 years in Krishna consciousness. And why am I still going? Because I know that this is the goal. just like, Indians with spelling bees in America, these young kids, they're getting so good. They memorized the dictionary and now they have 11 winners. They don't know how, because they know every single word. What sacrifice? Because that's their faith. Some fleeting fame, some, prize. So people make sacrifice when they value a goal. And this is, according to this story, this is the ultimate goal. Anyway, in this kind of exchange, I'm looking at it like Lord Chaitanya always has two roles. And he's sincere in each role. He's sincere when he's God, and he's sincere when he's the devotee. It's not like he's faking he's a devotee. And when you're a devotee, you have to be educated. When you're a devotee, you're lacking something you want. So he's sincere in that. So no matter how Rāmānanda Rāya tries to praise him and say, this is all your mercy, I don't know how I'm going to go forward. No one has ever spoken like this before. And that's that verse by, I think, Raghunath Das Goswami, I quoted many times, Anarpita charim charat karunaya, the tear never before given for a long time. So exalted. He doesn't know. He doesn't know how he's going to how he's going to speak about these things. But he's the instrument. And the discussion becomes so ecstatic because it's bhakti. It's bhakti. Machita, madkata prana, bodhiyantas parasparam. This is described in Bhagavad Gita. Machita is my mind. Machita, madkata pranas, bodhiyantas parasparam. Enlightening one another, discussing. Machita, it's my mind. Madkata, it's my goal. Prana, it is my food. It is my life air. And when doing this, and you experience this is, I feel when I'm speaking and I have a crowd and we're exchanging this, it's bhakti. It's not only bhakti, but it's bhakti with Krishna's blessings because he becomes pleased with what we're doing. He is Surit Satam. He is the well-wisher of the devotee. And when you engage, as we're engaging in this process, both the people here and me to the people in the audience, then vidyā-madhye, Surit Satam. Because he's the well-wisher, vidyā-madhye, he is cleansing the heart. So it's so pleasurable that Rāmānanda Rāya says, don't leave. Stay here another 10 days. And Lord Chaitanya says, why 10 days? Why 10 days? Stay here for the rest of my life. And actually he does. Chakva Turnam Masesha Mandala Pati Trenim Siddha Tuchavat Bhutva Dina Ganesha Ka Karunaya Gopina Kantasvitau Gopi Bhava Rasam, Gopi Bhava Rasam Rahi, Gopi Bhava Rasam Hari Kalola Magno. Gopi Bhava. Anyway, I forgot, I don't know. Amazing, 1,000 times chanted that verse. But Taktva-turnam asesha, giving this up, like Taktva asesha mandalapati, sadat, like it's nothing. Tuchavat means, vat means like, tucha means a pinch, it's nothing. Bhutva dina ganesha kau karunaya, bhutva for others. So Rāmānanda Rāya is this magistrate, he has all this Vaidika Brahmins and this entourage. He gives it all up. And so much pleasure. Lord Chaitanya, no, why 10 days? Spend your rest of my life like this. The devotees that we hear, I was describing, it's been so fortunate here. Today, great souls are visiting me. Today, Vegavati and Swarga visited me. I don't know if some of you know them from Gita Nagari. They've also been Prabhupada disciples. They've been devotees, for also, I don't know, over 45, 50 years. Just wonderful devotees. And then this lady, Madhya-lila, she was a teacher with me for 6 years. Another extraordinary devotee. Her parents took her to the temple when she was 12. And as soon as she got of age, she joined the temple. For Indians, that was unheard of. And then she went out and distributed books, married a book distributor. She visited me. And then that great saint, Jamuna Jivana, I went to see him in Vrindavan. And then Giriraj Swami came to visit me up until 12 o'clock at night. And then Parthasarthi and Burijan came. We met here. And it was just relishable. Vaishnava is discussing their internal life, discussing what gives them taste in Krishna consciousness, discussing what they think of and how they meditate on the holy name, and sharing pastimes of Krishna. So you don't want to leave. And he's going to ask questions, and he's going to say, one of the questions that's asked is, what's the greatest pain? And it's called separation from a Vaishnava. So they decide to stay, and they're discussing more. And then this question is of all types of education, which is the most important. And it's kind of discussing Radha and Krishna, which is real rasika stuff. And then this question comes of all types of education, which is the most important. And Rāmānanda Rāya replied, no education is important other than devotional service. And it's such an important point. You have to understand it in context. You can do so many things, but they have importance in relationship to a goal. If you have the wrong goal, then you waste your life. And that's the value of, that's what the Bhakti Lata Bij is. Brahmanda Brahmate Konya Vaga and Jeev Guru Krishna Pasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. What is the Bhakti Lata Bij? It's that experience that gives you faith, that experience of bhakti. And therefore, it gives you the goal. It gives you the goal, the right goal. And that whole story between Rāmānanda Rāya is saying, what is the ultimate? But also, it's showing you what is the goal. Our goal is to develop our relationship with Krishna. And within that relationship with Krishna, which has to deal with his internal potency, energizing your consciousness. And the internal potency is the pleasure potency too. And that pleasure is love of Godhead. Pleasure comes in relationship. And when your relationship is with everything because it is God, then you feel love. Prabhupada said, thrilled every moment. The goal is happiness. But what is happiness? According to our tradition, happiness is love, universal love. Love for God, love for Krishna. And when that's not the goal, then whatever else if it's not connected to that, it doesn't mean that other things, even satisfying one's material desires, are not important. But if it's not connected to that, then it has no value. What profit a man get if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? That's what's being said here in this purport, in this verse. What profit you get to anything you do if it's not connected to the goal? Attachments can be connected to the goal. I always quote that verse, caitanya-caritāmṛta. It's just that the attachments, it's not, that's not the goal. Vidyā-madhye, the goal is not the pleasure of the senses. The pleasure of the senses may be the means to the goal if you take just what you need to be peaceful, jivasya tattva jigyasa, to help you in your inquiry to understand reality. So it's interesting, though. He said it fits in with everything. What education? What education is the most important? No education is important unless you connect it with that goal. It has to be connected. Otherwise, what's the purpose if it doesn't lead to happiness? If it brings you a life filled with duality, what's the purpose of it? That's why atheism is such a sad thing, because when you don't believe in God and you believe materialism, there's really no goal. Because life is tough, as my godbrother Sridhar Maharaj used to have on his briefcase. Life is tough and then you die. And Prabhupada didn't let people forget the goal. The practicality was there. There's varnashram there. That's why niyamagraha, too much affection for the rules, is an impediment. Is when you forget the goal of the rules, and therefore you execute rules in a certain circumstance that don't serve the goal. It becomes an impediment to bhakti. That's the whole story of the wives of the Brahmins delivered. They were so high in so many mode of goodness things. But because it just increased their ego and made them blind to the service of Krishna. And then their wives, when somehow the same cowherd boys asked from their wives for some food, they came running to Krishna as the river flows to the sea. The analogy of the river flowing to the sea is it can't be stopped. There's no obstacles. And then when they saw Krishna, and of course, Krishna sent them back to their husbands. It's a longer story than this class. But they awakened the soul, and when their husbands saw them, when the husbands saw them, they just like, oh my God, they had an epiphany. What the hell were we doing? We just got caught up in our rituals, and then to hell with our celibacy, to hell with our tapasya, to hell with our knowledge, to hell with, our puja, to hell with everything. Because it didn't change the heart with love, which is the goal. That's the purpose of all the things. And when you lose the purpose, then all those things become useless. If you have a goal and you're trying to attain the goal, but you don't attain the goal, then what was the value? Bhakti, you immediately attain the goal because you attain the seed of the goal, because bhakti is the goal. It's just not mature. Therefore, that verse in the Bhagavatam, Dharma svinushtita pumsa viviksena paryedyash, it's simply, svinushtita means expertly perform dharma. It's useless if it doesn't give you attraction to God. It's not that it doesn't have importance. And it's not that its importance isn't even related to material life. If the establishment of that material life is for Krishna. So you have a family, and mothers love children, and you get a house. And so it has value when it's connected to God. Otherwise, what's the value of it ultimately? If there's not a spiritual purpose. Okay, I'll read the next verse. Kirti gana madhye jivera kon bada kirti kṛṣṇa-bhakti balaya yanhara hoya kyati. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Rāmānanda Rāya, out of all glorious activities, which is the most glorious? Rāmānanda Rāya replied, that person is reputed to be a devotee of Lord Krishna, enjoys the utmost fame and glory. Purport, the greatest reputation a living being can have is to be a devotee of Krishna and to act in Krishna consciousness. In the material world, everyone is trying to be famous by accumulating a large bank balance or material opulence. There is a steady competition among karmis attempting to advance in a wealthy society. The whole world is turning in accordance with that competitive mood. But so people have these objectives, and it's to advance in the accoutrements of power, which is respect for one's social status, respect for one's opulence, respect for one's learning, and respect for beauty and one's relationship with the opposite sex. So people are competing. But this kind of name and fame is temporary, for it lasts only as long as the temporary material body exists. One may become famous as a Brahma Jnani, an impersonalist scholar. One may become a materially opulent person. In either case, such reputations are inferior to the reputation of a devotee. I spoke before of reputation, what an important commodity it is, and the three aspects of it: one's competency, character, and productivity over a period of time. That reputation allows you to negotiate in the world. But as Chanakya Pandit said, a wealthy man is respected in his village, but a saintly person is respected all over the world. And ultimately, it's real respect, because it's not envy. It's actually appreciation. That's why Sanatana Goswami, Dhira Dhira Janapriyo Piyakaro Namatsuro Pujito. He was respected by everyone, the ruffians and the gentle and the ruffians. Dhira Dhira Janapriyo, Janapriyo, the people loved him. Dhira Dhira Janapriyo Piyakaro. Dhira Dhira Janapriyo Piyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujitao. And he was worshipable. Why? Nirmatsara. There was no envy. He wasn't competing in the material sphere, because that was not the value that one held. And such a person, worshipable by everyone. In the Garuda Purana, it says, Kalo Bhagavatam Nama Dulabam Naiva Labhyate Brahma Rudra Patak Kritsnam Guruna Patitam Mama. In this age of Kali, the fame of one who is known as a great devotee is very rare. However, such a position is superior to that of great demigods like Brahma and Mahadev. This is the opinion of all spiritual masters. Because it's a reputation that people really respect. Where you may have a reputation for so many things, but it's mixed with envy. It's mixed with a meditation on power that you want in the world. But real reputation based on drawing the love out of people's hearts is when one is a devotee, which means namatsara, he's not envious. And when Sanatana Goswami would go to a village, the whole village would follow him out. There was so much love. And one of the reasons there's love is because that person who's a true devotee is not in that competition. When you're in the competition, it's envy. People envy you when you're in the competition. Why? Because the false ego wants power, it wants superiority. And if you have the accoutrements of power, you compromise that superiority. And then there's legitimate then envy. And the nice thing about bhakti, as opposed to the competition in the material world, in the competition of bhakti, every person can be successful. And in the material competition, no one can be successful, because the superiority is already occupied by God. But the position of servant is unlimited. But it's so nice, anandam buddhi vardhana, that the devotees Anandambudhi Vardhanam, that kind of pleasure, the ocean of material happiness. It's so amazing that we can all have the highest position. And you can't say that about material things. In the Adi Purana, in a conversation with Krishna and Arjuna, is said, Bhaktanam anuganchiti muktaya shrutibir. The most exalted position of liberation is given by Vedic knowledge. Everyone follows in the footsteps of the devotee. Similarly, in the Briha Naradiya Purana, it is further stated, Adhyapicha Muni Shreshta Brahmadhya Api Devata. Until now, even the great devotees like Brahma and Lord Shiva did not know the influence of a devotee. The Garuda Purana states, it is said that of thousands of Brahmins, one is qualified to perform sacrifice. And out of many thousands of qualified Brahmin experts in spiritual sacrificial offerings, one learned Brahmin may have passed beyond all Vedic knowledge. He is considered the best of all the Brahmins. And yet out of thousands of such Brahmins who have surpassed Vedic knowledge, one person may be a Vishnu Bhakta, and he is most famous. Out of many thousands of such Vaishnavas, one who is completely fixed in the service of the Lord is most famous. Indeed, a person who is completely devoted to the service of the Lord certainly returns home, back to Godhead. So the exalted position. And Prabhupada didn't minimize like what is a devotee either. Because one time they glorified Prabhupada, he's such a great devotee. He said, no, devotee is not an ordinary thing. But anyone can be a devotee. There's no material qualification. The highest goal of life is in your heart now. When you say, Krishna, from this day I am yours. The Srimad Bhagavan 3.13.4 is said, Shrutasya pumsam suchira sammasya nanjasa suryabir iddato tata. After much hard labor, a person highly learned in Vedic literature certainly becomes very famous. However, one who is always hearing and chanting the glories of the lotus feet of Mukunda within his heart is certainly superior. In the Narayan Vyuhastava is said, Naham Brahmapi Bhuyasam Twad Bhakti Rahato Hare Twai Bhaktas Takito Bhuyasam Janma Janmasu. I do not aspire to take birth as Brahma if that Brahma is not a devotee of the Lord. I shall be satisfied simply to take birth as an insect if I'm given a chance to remain in the house of the devotee. There are many similar verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, especially 325:38, 4:24:29, 4:31:22, 7:9:24, and 10:14:30. I never saw Prabhupada do that before, quote the verses. It was Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva who said, I do not know the truth about Krishna, but a devotee of Lord Krishna knows all the truth. Out of all the devotees of the Lord, Prahlad, of Lord Krishna, Prahlad is the greatest. Above Prahlad, the Pandavas are supposedly more advanced. Above the Pandavas are the members of the Yadu dynasty, more advanced. And in the Yadu dynasty, Uddhava is further advanced. And above Uddhava, the damsels of Vrajadam, the gopis themselves. In Brihad Vishnu Vamana Purana, Lord Brahma tells Bhrigu, quote, I underwent meditation and austerities for 60,000 years just to understand the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis. Still, I could not understand it. To say nothing of me, even Lord Shiva, Lord Shesha, and the goddess of fortune could not understand. The Adi Purana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, says, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the goddess of fortune, and even my own self are not dear to me as the gopis, end quote. Of all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is topmost. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami are the most exalted servitors of Srimati Radharani and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those who adhere to their service are known as Rupanuga devotees. The Caitanya-caritamrta gives the following statement about Rupa Goswami. The qualities of one engaged in the service of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, such as reputation, austerities, penances, and knowledge, are not to be compared to the good qualities of others. Such is the perfection of a devotee engaged in the service of the Lord. Anyway, I can see a little bit of the fatigue. Sure, anybody, Jumunajai, you have anything to share today? You still there today?
Yes, Maharaj. Oh, wait, where's my camera? Thank you for class. There's a lot. There's actually a lot in there. But I really love, well, one point I really loved is early on you said, nothing's as good as it seems and nothing's as bad as it seems either. I really love that. I find that, I was just reflecting that when things seem, oh, so bad, it's because the ego is being attacked. And the ego is saying this is bad, and that's actually not so bad. So I really love that point. And then I also love this point you just said a little while ago about how there's a competition in the material world. You're never going to win. I love that way. It's like, because God's the controller, you're not gonna beat God. But in the spiritual world, there's always unlimited ways to serve. So I really loved those two things a lot today.
Thank you for that picture of Father Juan. I love Father Juan.
He is, so I will get his, I'll contact Trunanima to get his information.
He was in an existential dilemma because he was like a Catholic minister, not a Catholic, a Christian minister, but he really, he really accepts Krishna consciousness,
He really does. He got up at the Sangeet on Saturday night and he says, he said thousands of years ago, Krishna, only a few years ago, Christ. And then he sang this Christian song that ended with hallelujah. And then he said, all of you will know when to clap in the song and you'll know why. And all of a sudden he started singing this song in the melody that Rāmānanda Swami always uses to do the Maha Mantra. And the crowd went nuts. Everybody was up on their feet, like clapping.
He was at the wedding?
This was at, they had a Sangeet, like a performance, a bunch of performances on Saturday before the wedding. And so
he was one of them?
Yeah.
And how does he know Sangeet?
I don't even know how he knows him, but he's known him for a long time. And Kripa Moya actually did the wedding ceremony, but he had Father Juan speak as well. And it was, I forgot, Father Juan did the part from the Bible that love is patient, love is kind, that verse, whatever that one is.
Yeah.
And he was there at the wedding as well. Everyone just fell in love with him.
He loves the devote. What was Kripa Moya doing? Does he know the couple?
Yes, I think that they asked because Kripa Moya was there, his wife was there, Janavi was there, because they're long time both of the couple long time community members at the Bhakti Center. So I don't know if Kripa Moya just
man?
Karuna Nimai. I
don't know.
Yeah, you might not know him.
Okay, so it was a big wedding.
Yeah, huge.
I'm just what was Father Juan doing?
He knows Karuna well, and I don't know how. Maybe Gail was there. Gail, do you know how Karuna knows Father Juan? I don't know how he knows him, but he knows him well.
No, I don't know how they know each other.
Yeah.
Okay, Gail, what's your question?
Yeah, I do have a question, but because you have to have a certain amount of understanding to ask it properly. So I'm going to have to wait.
Okay, why don't you write me?
Yeah, like I said, I think I'm going to have to listen to the class again. It has to do with the the fact that devotees have that they're not envied by society because their qualities. Anyway, it's too convoluted. So yeah, I'm going to have to listen.
Yeah, well, that basic principle is, I was thinking of Sanatana Swami because it says he was worshiping, he was not envious. So I interpreted that to mean that envy comes from competition, but the devotees are detached. So they don't want what other people are fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore they have a better chance of, in a normal society of innocent people, even if there's some that are ruffians, of being accepted. Because everybody else is a threat. They're more beautiful, they have more wealth, they want our wealth, they want to be more beautiful than us. Their class system, so many things come into play. But for a devotee, a real devotee, he's not into that
that competition
activity, because it says Namatsara Satam, the devotee is not envious. But which devotee is not envious? Dharma projita kaitavotra, because he's kicked off this fruit of activity. He's not in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, think about it, Gail. Okay,
yeah.
Anybody else
Thank you.
say hello?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here. So good to hear from you and see you so lively today.
Oh, so traveling makes a man old. I don't do well. This is my day off.
Got me fooled.
All intensity is gone today. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Krishna-bhakti. Thank you so much.
Amrita, Haribo. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate so much. You always liked my classes and sought them out. Thank you.
I loved your classes. Thank you very much.
Okay, Haribo. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Gurudev, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Surya Radhika here. Yavat Sundari, Surya Radhika.
I can't. Oh, Yabat Sundari. Okay, the reception is not. Oh.
And Surya Krishna Maharaj, Hare Bol Maharaj.
Are you caring for your daughter and bringing her health back?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. I'm very sick and she's giving so much care. She's coughing all the time, Maharaj.
Well, you're there. You'll solve her problem. Okay.
Yeah, she'll be okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Anybody else? Hi, Bo.
Hare Krishna Garage, this is all Govinda.
Parja, thank you for class.
Thank you for class.
Hey, Haribo.
Haribo.
Who's that jazz musician next to you? I heard he's starting to play the saxophone. Okay, Haribo. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Namaste here.
Haribo.
Haribo. Thank you for the wonderful class, Guru Maharaj.
Maybe in a couple of weeks we should just touch base again. Okay?
Okay.
That'd be nice. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna crash out today.